So I guess yes, no, and no. There we go.
Same question, Evans, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, thank you.
Okay.
So when I was a little girl and Olivia was born, I had a really strong experience with scarring experience. My mom's doctor, when they found out that Olivia had special needs, encouraged her to have an abortion. And it was a really hard truth for our family and not the direction that we wanted to go to. I grew up in a strong Christian family. Olivia was a planned pregnancy and we wanted her to join our family. And so for a long time, I didn't identify as pro-choice. But as I grew older and I reflected on that experience, I realized that that experience was not about abortion or not. It was about someone trying to push their choice on my mom and our family. And I now, as an adult and in my career, have strongly supported women's choices over their body. And when we deny coverage to folks, what we're doing is denying care to the poorest communities. Poorest women are not receiving the options to make choices that are right for themselves.
Thank you. I think you hang on to that because you'll get the next question.
Challenge.
Oh, you challenge, I guess that. Go right ahead.
Just this tugs the heartstrings. Of course, this is America. America's split. Right now, for the first time in 40 years, 52% of America is actually pro-life. Just because there's more information. The point is, this is not going to be solved today. I will say this: before I met my wife, before I married her, she had an abortion, and I tell you, the devastation to her life and her regret, something I wouldn't want to see anybody go through. I'm not going to take away their choice, but it was devastating. And for me, I believe that every life is valuable. Every man, woman, and child has a God-given gift and purpose. And for me, that's how important and true it is. And that's my convictions and my values. I just want to share that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did. I think Marty and I have been reading different statistics. We have seen in Kaiser Family Foundation polls that more than 50% of the country supports a woman's right to choose, and more than 75% supports fully funding Planned Parenthood. So I think that we have seen the country speak, and they support women.
Okay, thank you. So let's back this up a little bit. Let's go to Carbon Initiative, shall we? So will you oppose or support the Carbon Initiative and why? Please explain. Carbon Tax Initiative.
So we all live on the Kitsap Peninsula, I think for the most part, because we want to live in a beautiful place. We want to be able to wake up and see Cascades and the Olympics covered in snow. We want to be able to swim and fish and crab and take our dogs for walks in the forest. And that's only possible if we are good stewards of the planet and we reinvest in our planet's future. And right now, we are seeing, companies who have profits in mind, well over stewarding the planet, making a big impact, a negative impact on our environment. And we need to do something about it. And I think that this carbon fee structure is a potential solution to directing business interests in the way that will better benefit our lives, our planet, and our grandchildren's futures.
Thank you. All right.
Simply, of course, not a surprise to you, I do not support a carbon tax, an income tax, a capital gains tax, any kind. The reason being, once again, is it's not tied to anything. The carbon tax, the pollution fee, whatever you call it, is tied to the general fund. Last session, we had $7 billion extra dollars. We had $700 million tied to go to the rainy day fund that was diverted. It was still spent. Government is out of control. The government is the problem. Why would we give them 20 cents a gallon more tax to go to the general fund that has no tie to, no benefit to in reducing carbon? The way we reduce carbon is actually do a good forestry management to eliminate or reduce the forest fires in Eastern Washington. It's the idea of good public policy, of education. We can lower that much more effectively with those ways within the bounds without a new tax.
All right, thank you. So staying on infrastructure for the state, the question from our audience member is, what do you see as the priority in a fix for the SR16/SR3 congestion initiative. Just down the road here, folks.
I'm first. Okay.
Yes.
A good friend of mine, my co-host on my radio show, we didn't talk about that. He has this thing that says, dump the trains, add more lanes. But it's a joke, but in sensitive ways. It is. We have to find ways to make sure that people are going to and from work in a way where they have the lanes that will handle the traffic to get them to and from work in an efficient way. That we have the resources, the fast ferry, the trains, that kind of stuff as well. But many of us live rurally, so we can have some privacy, a quality of life, so we want to drive our cars. So the first part is these road projects that finally will be finished in Tacoma that will back up 16 all the way to Highway 3 over here. And of course, Gorse has been a problem for a long time. It's something that needs to be engineered in a way that actually people get through it. We understand part of that is the shipyard coming in and out, and we want to bless those, but that's a huge job creator, job engine here in the community. But we can find ways to relieve congestion. Of course, as I mentioned before, Jan Bill sponsored in the Senate a congestion relief project that will be relevant or out in July. Thank you.
Emily?
I sit in that Gorse traffic a lot. I live here in West Bremerton, and the rest of the district is to the south of us. And I understand that we need to have some traffic relief. We need to make sure that folks aren't spending so much of their days sitting in their cars away from their families. I think the solution is more investment in public transportation. It's greener, it takes more cars off the road, and it allows folks the opportunity to, be more productive if they want, take a nap if they want. We need more buses. We need Sunday service here in Kitsap County so that folks who don't have cars or don't want to drive can get from one end of the county to the other. We need to continue investing in our ferry system, which transports a huge portion of our community and allows folks to bring tourism dollars into our district also. I really think that focusing on public transportation is the solution.
And you have a challenge?
Just to follow up on that, we have to look very far to look over to the east side, Bellevue, Kirkland, Seattle, and see the issue here. It's never been about congestion. We talk about congestion relief, and we spend our taxpayer dollar, almost half of the transportation budget, on ST3. We got saved from that because we're on this side of the bridge from that. But your neighbors are getting hit with $1,000 car tax, with increased property tax, with increased sales tax that will serve less than 1% of the population. I understand, I'm for all of the above transportation issues, but when you talk about Kitsap County, Pierce County, along this corridor, that is not the only answer. We have to look at widening our lanes and relieving congestion, actually dealing with congestion.
Okay, and your opponent has also challenged the challenge.
Well, I forgot that I just have the opportunity to respond, but well, one of the problems that we're seeing, Marty brought up the east side, is that more than 50% of the state transportation budget is going to King County. And we haven't had someone who's fighting very hard to get enough of that money here into our district. And I think that's what we need. We need to advocate for our community to make sure that we're getting the investments that we deserve.
Okay, we have a challenge to the challenge.
I just take that umbrage with the fact that we haven't had someone fight for us. Janny Doe has done a stand-up job the last 5 years in the Senate, fighting for our dollars and our transportation dollars on the transportation committee here in this district. And of course, as she's endorsed me for a position, I will fight doubly hard to make sure that we are represented well in 26.
And Emily.
That's okay.
We're good.
Okay, Emily, but you do get the next question. So let me continue this challenging. This question, so you cannot talk about transportation while talking about the ferry, and you alluded to that in your responses. And the question is, what is your plan for improving our ferry service?
We are at a point where, we've seen a recent new boat, we have these new fast ferries, but so many of our boats are reaching the end of their lifespan, and we need to continue constructing new boats that are running on greener fuel sources, and making sure that the vessels that we have in service are getting the maintenance that they need. we've been kind of lax on making sure that's happening, and then, as we all know, sometimes we have to go on half power, we get stuck in a longer commute, we have to take a boat out of service, it disrupts the whole ecosystem of our marine highways, and that really negatively impacts folks right here in our community who are going to Seattle for fun or who are going to Seattle for work. And I think the ferries are hugely important, and I will be a champion for them in Olympia.
Thank you. Marty?
The reason so many people are moving over here is cost of living is lower. They like the attractiveness of being able to have a good quality of life, being able to get here in a short period of time, whether it be an hour by ferry or even 40 minutes by fast ferry. I'll champion that as well. There's many internal infrastructure things that we have to deal with. I know Larry Sequist did this before, and Danny's worked on this as well. The boats, if we can open up competitive bidding to find the right boats that are more efficient and faster and cheaper to build, and not have government so heavily involved in it, we'll have more boats with more schedules, run on more time, and they being more efficient and more cost effective. It's something that we'll look at.
All right, thank you. So now, moving from the ferry system to you, Marty, the question is from our audience member, do you support reforming the Growth Management Act? Marty?
19 years in real estate, as Don Manning knows this as well over here. Growth Management Act is atrocious. Along the Shoreline Management Act, it limits where you can build, what you can build, and so forth, in a way that is actually punitive to counties and to cities and local jurisdictions. So absolutely, this needs to be readdressed, relooked at, streamlined, so it actually works for communities, so you can build smartly, but also works for those that want to build and provide housing that we've been talking about all morning.
Thank you. Emily, same question.
Yeah. I agree that there's no harm in revisiting the legislation to make sure that it's working for our community. But as Marty talks about his vision for a Reformed Growth Management Act, what I hear is that we want to build more, and we want to allow our private industry to develop our beautiful community in a way that, removes some of the quality of life that we're here for. We want to continue to see trees in our community. We want to continue to make sure that our streams and our groundwater and our beautiful Puget Sound is healthy, and that requires some control over how we're growing.
Thank you. Do you have a challenge?
I do, yeah. Don't want to miscolor what I said. What I said was we want to do this in a smart way, revisit to provide so it makes sense for both communities and builders. The idea here is about a quarter to a third of the cost of a house is regulation. If you can streamline from a state level, or make it easy for a builder who builds in Bremerton, who builds in Seattle, who builds in Port Townsend or in Gig Harbor, it lowers the cost of entry. On top of that, you allow local jurisdictions like Gig Harbor now has a building moratorium saying, we built out, we have a plan, we're going to take a pause. You should be allowed to do that. But so there's a balance between the state level, as far as streamlining things, make it easier, lowering the cost, and the local level saying we have a choice of how we want our community to grow.
And Emily, care to review
I think I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay, so then let's see, you answered it, Emily, so actually the question goes to Mark. Yes. So, question to you, sir, is how will you ensure Olympia and the Department of Corrections will start paying the full cost when state inmates are transferred or housed in local jail facilities?
Interesting. On that, I do know that many of our local jail facilities make extra revenue when they accept other prisoners. They bring prisoners, inmates from other jails, and they actually charge a rent. So we know it's a revenue source. So that was something we have to look at from the state level, the local level. If they have open cells that they're actually charging rent for, then do they need the resources from the state at that point in time? So I'd have to look at that and follow up, make sure it's fiscally responsible.
Very good. Emily?
I think the bigger issue here is that our jails and our prisons are overcrowded, and that's because of prison industrial complex that keeps our community over incarcerated. So many folks in our community, I would venture to say that probably 1 in 3 know someone who has been jailed or incarcerated, and it's not always the best solution. I believe in community safety, and I believe in working with our law enforcement and talked with our sheriff and our police chiefs and the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs in Olympia, and fully support them having the resources they need to keep us safe, but I also think that we should be looking at scaling back the number of people we are putting in cells.
Thank you. Oh wait, we got a challenge. We got a challenge. Okay.
Just want to mention that obviously we want to give our police officers and our sheriffs and departments every resource available to do their job. The number one job of government, once again, is to keep our communities safe, which means enforcing the law and putting those that deserve it in jail as a deterrent for other people committing crimes.
Thank you. Emily, would you care to comment back? All right, very good. So staying on the same, folks are quite interested in building and growth management. This question is, do you support impact fees for builders to support infrastructure?
That's a broad question. There are impact fees for everything. Of course, we support impact fees within reason. What we see, though, is when they become punitive. I'll give you an example. In Gig Harbor, a restaurant was being remodeled by a builder. They were going from a 4-inch pipe, water pipe, to an 8-inch water pipe. The impact fee was $80,000. They could afford it, but does that make sense? That's punitive for changing a water pipe. Or an impact fee for a church. Casey Tree's got a new church in Gig Harbor. Groundbreaking I went to the other day. Every property along that road is on a well and on septic. But they're making this church bring in water and sewer for all their neighbors in order to be able to break ground on their new church building. That is punitive. I'm against that. So they have to be fair and in measure or in balance with the project.
Emily?
I think we've heard a lot about our concerns around growth and making sure that our community looks like the community that we know and love. And I think the way that we continue to do that is by encouraging reinvestments in our beautiful Kitsap Peninsula. And impact fees are a great way to do that. Builders and new businesses who are growing and thriving benefit from a community that works well for everyone. They benefit from the workforce, they benefit from the infrastructure, they benefit from clean water and a beautiful environment, and I think they should be giving back and making sure that they're paying their fair share.
Okay, and we have a challenge.
I just want to give an example. There's something that the public-private partnerships work great, where the public builds the infrastructure, sewer, roads, whatever, then the builder actually pays an impact fee through a ongoing assessment. There's a way to partner with that where you get new buildings that are affordable, that improves the community. There's a much better way of getting public-private partnerships in place versus higher impact fees.
All right, Emily, would you care to respond to that?
Are we challenging things or are we just adding information?
Yeah, well, at this point, apparently we didn't even need an award. The idea was a challenge, but we're adding something at this point, so it's gone down and slippery slope.
No, I'm fine.
Okay, very good. So then the next question goes to Marty. This question is, again, regarding the Growth Management Act. Do you think the Ruckle House project will result in true changes to the Growth Management Act?
Okay, someone's got to tell me what the Rockwell House project is. Unfortunately, I don't know what that is.
Audience member? Want to speak to
Yeah,
that?
my question. Ruckle House Institute was an organization that was hired by the Senate and the House in Olympia to look at the GMA, interview elected representatives throughout the state to come up with some potential changes to the Growth Management Act. But having gone to a number of the meetings, I don't think we're going to get any substantial change from that. And I was sort of curious as to your take on Ruckle House and their direction leading to potential future changes in the Growth Management Act.
I'd have to look at it and get back to you. I appreciate that. I'm glad they're looking at it, but it's important that we have everybody involved, builders, contractors, buyers, you name it, the whole stakeholder group, to make sure that we're actually doing things that make sense for communities.
Well, I hadn't heard of it either, so I'm glad that you brought it to our attention. And would love to talk to you more about your perspective. And, I agree that I think that all stakeholders need to be at the table when we're making substantive changes. But I think in addition to builders and private industry, we need to make sure that local government and environmental experts and community leaders from all sectors are involved.
Okay, and so Emily, next question to you is, how will you promote a business-friendly environment that reflects the concerns and values of the 26th district?
So I think one of the huge drivers of our local economy are small businesses. And I've heard from a lot of small business owners who are struggling. They're struggling to keep their doors open. As folks who have lived in our district for a long time know, we've got a lot of storefronts that have been empty for a substantial period of time. I've been talking to folks, including Mayor Wheeler, about ways that we can streamline our B&O taxes. I know that's a local jurisdiction issue, but I know he'd really like support from the state level to make sure that small businesses have an environment that they can thrive in so that they can scale, they can hire new local community members to make sure their businesses are running efficiently and that they can give back to the community and be of service.
Thank you.
As a small business owner and have been for like the last 19 years, not just in real estate, but also other small businesses, I've signed them out a check. I understand what it is to hire employees, to struggle with taxes, L&I, Harris, you name it, across the board. So I understand the burdens of our local business owners. That said, when you're open for business, it's good for the economy. When you do business-friendly policies, zoning, jurisdiction, lowering taxes, lowering impact fees, making sure that people can build or start a business, it's important for our church in that regard. This is something I want to be a champion for. I am a champion for on the small business growth. When you can work with local jurisdictions saying, hey, we're open for business. Emily talked about jobs here, people, employers having a hard time. Every work source from Gig Harbor, Porter, and Bremerton says that for every job applicant, they have 3 job offers. But that's how the economy's growing. Taxes are lower, the regulations have been cut, the economy is booming. We can do the same thing at the state level and the local level to make sure that Washington State has a booming economy for years to come.
All right, and it looks like we're getting down to our last question, which is to you, Marty. If any, what new tax would you support and what should that new funding accomplish?
I think we covered this, that no new taxes until we figure out how we would be fiscally responsible with the taxes we already have. Right now, we've proven that we can't be. There's no end in sight. When you have $7 billion extra on top of funding McCleary at the highest level we've ever done, and still want more, your government is not being held accountable. I'll give you an example quickly. Every state agency has a budget. At the end of the year, if they don't spend it, they lose it. What happens at the end of the year? They spend it. Let's work together to fix the budget. They can't lose it no matter what, but incentivize them to save it. If they save money through innovation or cost savings or not spending money, they don't have to. Take a percentage of that, give it right back to the employees, a percentage of that right back towards their pensions, and the rest of it can go to education, to roads, to any pet project you want. The idea is tied to something. You incentivize government to be wiser and smarter and more efficient.
Same question.
Since Marty brought this up, I'll start here. We saw a great investment in our education system in McCleary. Our legislature also had the opportunity to have a McCleary solution that included a lower tax burden or tax increase on community members, and the Senate Republicans voted against it. We need to see smart uses of our tax dollars that give our community members the resources they need to be successful members of society, to thrive. Our community doesn't want to pay no taxes, but we want to make sure that we see the benefit of the taxes that we do pay. And that looks like funding our education in a way that works for everyone. It looks like investing in transportation. It looks like investing in our environment.
So this is a challenge.
Challenge, yes, a challenge, yes.
Okay, just want to be clear.
It is a challenge. First of all, the Senate Republican caucus actually met the requirements of McCleary. The Supreme Court said it is finished and fulfilled. They did what they had to do. And the other challenge. Anyway, once again, I keep on losing my train of thought here, so I'm good. So.
Emily, did you have a counter?
Yeah. I didn't say that we didn't meet our constitutional obligation. I said that we could have done it without increasing taxes as drastically on our community.
I'm going to call it right now. Back there. I'm calling it. Marty, We get to the last 2-minute session, please. With that, I want to remind folks that on July 10th, we're going to have representatives for Legislative District 26. Representative Position 2, we have Randy Bloss scheduled, Michelle Collier, Marco Padilla, Padilla, thank you, Marco Padilla, and I'll have to practice that for the 10th, and also Joy Stamper. So make sure you put it on your schedules now. We'd love to see you here. Now we move into the 2-minute summary session, and with that, Emily, please.
Thank you. I appreciate you all coming so early in the morning to be a part of our democratic process and to really make thoughtful decisions about who you want representing you in Olympia. And as someone who grew up in this community and a hardworking family who has dealt with a number of struggles but also seen the benefit of good government on helping families in our community, I am asking for your vote. I will work hard for you. I will invest in healthcare. I will invest in public transportation. I will invest in housing. I will make sure that our community has the resources that we need to thrive, not just by looking out for our business interests, but by looking out for the interests of every single member of our community. So thank you again for being here, and I look forward to
Thank you. I also want to thank you for coming out this morning. I appreciate every one of you getting engaged in your civic duty and being part of your government, part of your community. You're doing a hiring decision here. Who's going to best represent this district and you and your values? I've lived here, as I mentioned before, raised my family here. I'm a small business owner here. I understand the issues that we're facing. I will say this though, shout out to 2 years ago we had the Majority Coalition Caucus. We had balanced government in Olympia. Even Democrats and Republicans alike said they got things accomplished. They fixed the Hearst decision. They addressed the Foster decision. They funded McCleary. It works. If you have one party rule, which is what we have right now, look at Seattle, look at Olympia. Nothing good's coming out of either one of them. We need to hold this seat in Republican hands and follow in Jan's footsteps to make sure we have a balanced government and we have wise government that we hold, that makes sure we understand that you are the boss as citizens and it's your tax dollars. That we're not going to be wasteful with your hard-earned money. We're going to work on solutions that you asked us to work on to make sure you get to and from work or to enjoy your time with your family in a much more enjoyable way. This is why we live here. We're neighbors. I'm your neighbor. I'm asking you for your vote as well. I'm asking for your support. I'm also asking for your input because I'm here to serve you. I'm here to work for you. I'm here to make sure that this district gets the attention that it richly deserves. Thank you. God bless.
All right. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Folks, have a wonderful day today.